You wake up with the taste of gunpowder in your mouth. The air is thick, and the world feels like it is about to split in half. You are confused, disoriented, and unsure why each hour changes your body. A voice in the dark, where your own subconscious hints that you'll walk through revolutions across time. You are not here to win, but to witness. You do not know your name, you do not know the century, but you understand one rule, as if whispered into your skull by someone unseen. Every hour you will wake on another side of a revolution. One moment you're clutching a musket in the American colonies. The next you blink and you're holding a bread knife in Paris where the mob chants "Liberté." Another blink and you're drowning in the noise of Petrograd, watching comrades argue about a world they swear will be born from fire. And yet, with each hour that passes, you are pulled again into another body, another side, another revolution. Everywhere you go, one truth remains. No one is safe. Alliances shift like shadows. Freedom sounds like a promise, but tastes like blood. And at midnight, you'll sit on the dictator's chair, no longer switching sides, no longer waking up elsewhere. Only one question will remain. Which side is the right side? And when does a revolution stop being about freedom and start being about power? And suddenly, gunpowder smoke fills your lungs. Someone is shouting your orders. A musket is thrust into your hands. You don't have time to ask questions. The first revolution has begun. Your hands are trembling around the musket. The stock is heavier than you imagined, and your shoulder aches as if you've been drilling all morning. The world around you is chaos. Boston, 1775. Shouts echo through narrow cobbled streets. Someone yells, "For liberty!" Another curses, "Traitors to the crown!" You don't know which side you're on until you glance at your coat. Rough homespun, a patriot's rags. You're standing shoulder to shoulder with farmers, merchants, men who traded plows and ledgers for powder horns. A British redcoat advances in the distance, and suddenly you realize you're not just in the middle of history, you're in the middle of a war. The air is alive with tension. Horses rear, muskets misfire, drums pound. From a tavern window, a woman pulls her child back inside, whispering a prayer. You taste fear on your tongue as if it were iron. Your neighbor, perhaps your brother, perhaps a stranger, clutches your arm. "Stand your ground," he whispers. His eyes are full of fire and dread. He doesn't look like a hero. He looks like a man who's afraid of dying, but more afraid of bowing. You aim your musket. You fire. The recoil knocks you back. Did you hit someone? You don't know. And then, the world tilts. The musket in your hands is gone. You blink, and now you're wearing a red coat. Your new boots are polished. Your buttons gleam. You feel the weight of discipline on your shoulders. The voice in your head is changed. Now you are the king's man, sent to quell a rebellion. The colonists look like ragged rebels, dangerous in their defiance. They call it freedom, but to you, it looks like treason. The same shot you fired before now whistles toward you. You duck. The world feels upside down. Which side is right? Both sides swear they are fighting for justice. Both believe the other is corrupt. And here you are, living as both the rebel and the loyalist, seeing the faces of men who might have shared bread yesterday, now trying to kill each other. How do you choose? Do you cry liberty with the farmers? Or do you march for the crown, for law, for order? What if both are true? What if neither is? The day stretches on, cannons splendor, fields burn. You're in the tavern, hearing whispers. The British burn homes. The patriots tar and feather neighbors. Everyone has their story. Everyone has their pain. You realize revolutions are not clean lines on parchment. They are smudges of ash on people's faces. And then, just as you begin to feel the weight of choosing a side, the hour strikes. The smoke dissolves, the musket vanishes. You wake again, but this time the crowd doesn't chant liberty. It chants, "To the guillotine." You wake to the sound of bells. They are not church bells, not wedding bells. They are the bells of Paris, clanging as if the city itself were shaking in its sleep. The air is thick with the smell of bread, or rather, the lack of it. The streets are alive, not with laughter, but with shouting. Thousands of voices roll together like a storm. Liberté, égalité, fraternité. You glance down. Your clothes are torn, patched a dozen times. Your stomach aches with hunger. Your hands hold a pike tipped with kitchen knives. You are not a soldier. You are a baker's son, or a washerwoman's husband, or a cobbler who could no longer bear to watch his children starve. And today, you are part of a mob. The Bastille looms ahead of you, tall and gray, a fortress meant to intimidate. Its stones drip with centuries of silence. To you and your fellow Parisians, it is more than a prison. It is a symbol of tyranny, where kings hide their enemies and where justice goes to die. The crowd surges. You surge with it. Your heart pounds. Somewhere in the chaos, someone is singing. Somewhere else, someone is screaming. Gunfire cracks from the walls. People fall. The mob roars back. You're swept forward, climbing over bodies, pushing against gates, clawing at chains. You don't even know who is inside the Bastille. All you know is this: it must fall. And then, the air shifts. The pike in your hand is gone. You blink, and the world has changed. The rags are gone. You are dressed in silk, fine, perfumed, tailored for comfort rather than survival. You are seated at a grand table, silver gold-bits shining before you. Candles flicker in crystal holders. You are no longer in the streets. You are in a noble's house, behind locked doors, listening to the distant thunder of the mob. A woman beside you, your sister perhaps, grasps your hand. Her rings dig into your skin as she whispers, "They are coming for us." Your servants have fled. Your guards are gone. All the wealth in the room feels suddenly useless, as powerless as paper in a storm. You thought yourself safe once, untouchable. Now you are prey. Which life is yours? The starving commoner, hungry enough to risk death for bread? Or the noble, raised in privilege, now hunted for sins you may or may not have committed? From one body to the next, you feel both sides of the blade. You cry liberty with the mob, your throat raw with desperation. You plead for mercy with the nobility, your hands trembling with fear. Both voices are yours. Both feel real. But Paris is not a city of mercy. Hours pass, and the revolution grows darker. You are once again in the crowd, this time standing before a raised wooden platform. The guillotine gleams in the sunlight, its blade catching the light like a cruel jewel. People cheer as if it were theater, their faces lit with hunger, not just for bread, but for vengeance. You blink, and now you are the condemned. Your wrists are bound, your feet are bare on the wooden boards. The crowd chants for your death, their eyes wild, their mouths foaming with righteous rage. You try to speak, but your voice is drowned by the drum roll. You blink again, and now you are the executioner, your hands steady on the rope. The condemned man begs, pleads, promises innocence. His eyes search yours for humanity. Do you hesitate? Do you pull the lever? No matter which body you wear, the blade still falls. The crowd roars. The world tilts. Your heart hammers as the echo of steel burns in your ears. And then, silence. You wander Paris as the days turn to weeks. The revolution is not 1 hour, but many. First hope, then fury, then terror. You hear speeches in taverns promising freedom, yet see neighbors dragged into alleys for whispering doubts. The slogans paint the walls: liberty, equality, fraternity. But at night, the whispers say another word: fear. You have been both the hungry and the full, the hunter and the hunted, the hand that pulls the rope and the neck beneath the blade. Which side is just? Which side survives? The bells ring again. Another hour passes. You blink. And now, the world is cold. Snow falls on Petrograd. A red flag rises against the winter sky. Your hands are red and raw from cold. Another revolution has begun. You wake to the sound of boots on cobblestones. A harsh wind cuts through your coat, and snowflakes sting your face like tiny shards of glass. It is Petrograd, 1917. The city groans like a starving giant. Everywhere you look, gray walls, gray sky, gray faces. Hunger has drained the color from the people. Children clutch empty bowls. Men huddle by fires that give more smoke than heat. Women stand in endless lines for bread that may never come. Your breath fogs the air. Your hands are rough from factory work. The stench of oil and sweat still clings to your clothes. You are a worker, a man whose life has been devoured by 12-hour shifts and broken machines. And now you are marching. Not to the factory, but to the square. Around you, thousands rise up with red flags, chanting words that feel like fire in your chest. Peace, bread, land. The Tsar has failed you. The war has bled you. Today you march not just for bread, but for the right to exist. Your boots crunch against snow and ice. Beside you, a woman clutches her child with one arm and a banner with the other. Her face is pale, her eyes fierce. A young student, spectacles fogged with frost, shouts until his voice cracks. The streets tremble with the force of thousands. For once, you do not feel small. But then, shots ring out. The Tsar's soldiers block the square, rifles aimed. They shout commands. You hesitate. Do they fire, or do they falter? And then, the world tilts. The banner slips from your hand. The cold stiffens into discipline. You blink. You are no longer a worker. Now you are a soldier of the Tsar. A rifle in your hands, a heavy coat on your back, boots polished for inspection. Your orders are clear. Hold the line. Stop the mob. Crush the rebellion before it spreads. But the mob is not an enemy army. It is women in shawls, children clinging to their mothers, students who look hardly older than you. Their hunger is real. Their anger is real. Your commanding officer yells, "Fire!" You raise your rifle. Your hands tremble. And you wonder, who is the traitor here? Do you fire into the crowd, or do you lower your weapon and risk execution for disobedience? Your heart pounds as the mob surges closer. And then, the snow melts away. You blink, and you are someone else again. This time, you wear a red armband. You are no longer just a worker, no longer just a soldier. You are a Bolshevik revolutionary. Your comrades whisper in smoky rooms, plotting the fall of empires. You speak words you never thought you'd dare. Down with the Tsar, down with the war, all power to the Soviets. Your voice shakes, but your comrades nod. The old order is crumbling, and you are here to help push it down. Yet, even here, you feel doubt. Some whisper that Lenin's promises are too good, too perfect. Some fear that one tyrant will simply replace another. But in the hunger and cold, even doubts taste like luxuries. The crowd outside grows louder. You take up your pen or perhaps your pistol. Change is no longer a dream. It is here, rattling the doors. And once again, the world tilts. Now you are in a palace. The walls are gilded, the chandeliers blazing with light, yet the halls feel empty. You are the Tsar, or perhaps a Tsarina, clutching the hand of a child. Servants whisper behind doors, generals bicker in corridors. Your empire is collapsing, your people starve, your armies desert. And yet you are still called Your Majesty, still bowed to, still feared. But the fear is fading. Even now you hear the chants outside the palace gates, the red flags rising, the crowd swelling. You tell yourself you rule by divine right, but the divine is silent tonight. A door slams, boots approach, and you know your hour is nearly over. The Russian Revolution is not a clean break. It is confusion, betrayal, hunger, fire. You have been the worker demanding bread, the soldier ordered to fire, the revolutionary whispering in shadows, the Tsar trembling in gilded halls. Each side swears it is the future. Each side fears it is already too late. And through every shift, one truth clings to you. Revolutions begin with hope, but they never end where they begin. Snow keeps falling. The city groans. Another hour passes. You blink, and now a wall divides the world, a city split in two. On one side, neon lights and jazz. On the other, barbed wire and silence. It is Berlin, 1961. You wake to hammering. Not the hammer of a blacksmith, not the hammer of carpenters raising a home, but the hammer of walls. Berlin, 1961. The night is alive with shouting. Floodlights glare against concrete. Barbed wire glitters in the dark like the teeth of a trap. Soldiers drive steel posts into the earth, rolling coils of wire, raising walls that will soon cut the city in half. You stand barefoot in your apartment, staring out the window at a street you may never cross again. Your mother's house is only blocks away, on the other side. Tonight, it becomes another country. The world is splitting, brick by brick, wire by wire. And you are caught in the middle, Your first body is young. Your shoes are worn thin, your coat patched at the elbows. You live in East Berlin, under Soviet shadow. The government promises stability, housing, guaranteed work. But what you feel most is hunger and suspicion. Tonight you had planned to visit your cousin in the West. Tomorrow was supposed to be her wedding. But now soldiers string wire across your street, hammering in the barricade that will soon become the wall. You push forward, shouting, "Meine Familie ist dort! My family is there!" A soldier shoves you back with his rifle butt. You stumble. The crowd screams. The wall grows taller. In your chest burns the question, if freedom is only a few streets away, what would you risk to reach it? And then the world tilts. Now your boots are heavy, your uniform pressed, your rifle cold against your shoulder. You are a Soviet border guard ordered to hold the line. The people cry out for their families. Some wave papers, some weep, some attempt to run. Your commander growls, "Stop them!" Your finger trembles on the trigger. You tell yourself, this wall is for their safety, for stability, for the socialist dream. But the cries of mothers cut through your justifications. A man tries to climb the wire. You shout, "Halt!" Will you fire? Or will you lower your rifle and risk being branded a traitor? The concrete rises higher. The crowd grows restless. The hour slips. And then you blink. Now neon light blaze around you. Cafes hum with laughter. Jazz plays in a smoky bar. The shelves in shops are lined with goods. Apples polished to a shine, radios stacked in windows, perfumes in crystal bottles. You are a West Berliner. Capitalism glitters around you, tempting, intoxicating. You taste coffee rich with cream, a luxury unimaginable only a few streets away. But even here, you feel unease. Your neighbors toast freedom, yet every conversation drifts to fear. What if the Soviets invade? What if tomorrow the wall is higher, thicker, forever? You step outside, and in the distance you see it, the wall, a scar of concrete cutting across your city, a monument to division. You laugh with friends, sip Western drinks, walk streets alive with consumer goods. Yet all the while the wall looms, a reminder that freedom here exists only because it is denied there. You can see East Berlin from your window, but you can never reach it. Hours pass. The wall is finished, but the Cold War stretches on. You shift again, this time into a stranger's body, a suit and tie, a forged passport in your pocket. You are no longer just a Berliner. You are a spy. The Cold War lives not only in walls, but in whispers. You pass coded notes in cafes. You glance over your shoulder for tales in trench coats. You trade secrets for survival, never sure which side truly owns you. You whisper democracy in one ear, equality in another. You tell each side what it wants to hear, and you wonder, are you serving freedom or just playing a game no one will win? The wall stands. The city waits. The Cold War hums like a taut wire, ready to snap. You have stood on both sides of the wall, as the hungry worker, the soldier with a rifle, the consumer surrounded by glittering shelves, the spy trading words like bullets. Each side swears it is the right side, Each side swears the other is enslaved. But standing between them, the wall feels like a mirror, showing two worlds, convinced they are free, yet trapped in their own illusions. Midnight is still far away. Your journey is not over. The hour turns. The neon disappears. The concrete fades. The barbed wire dissolves. You are pulled forward into another storm of voices, another crowd. The chants rise like thunder, half crying for God, half crying for freedom. You blink, and now the air is thick with incense. Crowds swell in the streets chanting, Allahu Akbar. The year is 1979. The Shah's rule is ending. You are in Tehran. The Iranian Revolution has begun.
You wake to chanting. Not the rowdy cheer of a crowd at sport, not the desperate cry of a starving mob, but the deep, rolling chant of thousands moving as one. Some cry, "Death to the Shah." Others cry, "Allahu Akbar." The words echo from rooftops, spill through the streets, rise into the cold Tehran night. Your heart pounds, your voice joins theirs, not because you understand every word, but because the air is electric with change. The Shah's statues are toppled, his portraits defaced. For years he ruled with polished suits and foreign smiles, but his prisons were full, his police ruthless, his wealth flaunted while your neighbors starved. Tonight his empire trembles, and you, who once whispered dissent behind locked doors, are shouting in the open, for the first time unafraid. You are a student. Your fists are ink-stained, your pockets nearly empty, your eyes blazing with hope. And for one breathless moment, you believe this is what freedom feels like. By day, you march in protests, weaving through streets lined with soldiers. Tear gas stings your eyes, but your legs carry you forward. At night, you huddle in secret apartments with other young men and women, whispering of a future where Iran is no longer a puppet of foreign powers. You dream of justice, of equality, of dignity. Your friend leans close, her scarf slipping back as she scribbles slogans on leaflets. Down with the Shah, down with tyranny. You imagine a world where your children will not bow before secret police, where your sisters may walk free. The chants grow louder, the crowds swell, the palace gates shake, and then the world tilts. The ink stains vanish, the scarf slips back into place. You blink. Suddenly, your robes are gone. Your beard is gone. Now your suit is crisp, your tie knotted tight. Gold glitters on your wrist. You are the Shah. Your palace walls shake with chants outside. Your guards whisper of betrayal. Your generals refuse orders. Your allies across the ocean hesitate, calculating whether you are still worth saving. Once you were adored, paraded in cars, your picture hanging in every shop. Now you are hated, cursed, spat upon. You tell yourself you modernized Iran, built roads, schools, hospitals. You gave your people a future, but they only see prisons, torture, secret police, corruption. You look in the mirror and see not a king, not a leader, but a man who has already fallen. You want to believe you can save yourself, but deep down, you know the hour is finished. Aftermath. The Shah flees. The clerics rise. Crowds cheer as the new order takes hold, but the dream of freedom splinters almost instantly. You blink again, And now you are neither Shah, nor student, nor cleric, but an ordinary woman, her headscarf pulled tight, standing in line at a ration shop. Only weeks ago you marched with your brother, shouting for liberty. Now you are told what you may wear, what you may read, what you may say. Your brother whispers that the revolution was stolen. Your neighbor whispers that this is God's will. Both look over their shoulders when they whisper. The streets are still full of chants, but they sound different now. Less hope, more obedience. And you, who once thought you were free, feel the same invisible chains slip around your wrists again. In Tehran, you were the student with fire in your chest, the cleric with faith in his hand, the Shah watching his empire dissolve, the woman realizing that one cage had only been traded for another. Which side was right? The secular dream of freedom, the religious promise of purity, or did both simply give way to new rulers, new prisons, new fears? The chants fade, the incense burns low, another hour strikes. You blink, and now silence. The palace is yours. The guards bow to you. It is midnight. You are no longer shifting. You are the dictator. You wake in silence. Not the silence of peace, nor the silence of sleep, but the heavy silence of fear. The kind of silence where no bird dares sing, where footsteps in corridors pause at your door, where even the clocks seem to tick more cautiously. You open your eyes. You are no longer running. You are no longer the protester with bruised feet, no longer the soldier trembling in the trenches, no longer the voice shouting in the square drowned out by louder ones. You wake on velvet. The bed is vast, the sheets smooth as silk, golden curtains sway in a faint draft. The air smells faintly of leather, perfume and dust. And you realize you are seated on a throne. It is your throne. Because when you sit up, soldiers salute, advisors bow, servants freeze. The revolution is over, and you are what comes after. You are the dictator. The hall around you is cavernous, echoing with marble silence. At the far end, guards wait with rifles across their chests. Ministers bow low, their faces pale in your presence. Behind you, a banner bearing your crest drapes across the wall like a shadow swallowing the room. It is your name they chant outside. Your portrait hangs in every street. Your signature carries more weight than any law. You are no longer powerless. You are power itself. Everyone obeys. Everyone fears. The palace is quiet, but not empty. Guards line the corridors, stiff and expressionless, their rifles polished, their boots gleaming. Ministers hover in corners, whispering in your shadow. They wait for you to speak, to decide, to rule. On your desk, piles pile high, petitions for freedom, reports of dissent, lists of enemies. The revolutionaries who once fought beside you now tremble before you. Some wait outside in the courtyard chanting your name. Others rot in cells beneath the floor. Your people chant for bread. Your generals whisper about loyalty. Your ministers remind you, too gently,
that mercy is weakness. And you sit at the center, holding the pen that will seal fates. At first, it feels like control. You command, and the order is carried out. Raise taxes here, silence a newspaper there, move troops, shift borders. But slowly, the illusion crumbles. The generals obey, but watch you. The ministers praise, but plot. The crowds cheer, but hunger grows. Every choice feels like survival, not governance. Every voice of dissent feels like a bullet aimed at your heart. The revolution promised freedom, but here, in the dictator's chair, freedom looks like chaos. Order feels safer. And so, with a heavy hand, you write the law, not for liberty, not for justice, for control. But beneath everything you hear it, the faint scrape of dissent, the whispered joke, the hidden meetings. At first it is only a murmur, but murmurs have toppled thrones before. Your generals tell you to crush it. Your ministers beg you to ignore it. Your heart wonders which path keeps the crown on your head. You sit in the council chamber, the air heavy with smoke from 1,000 cigars. Your advisors argue in circles. "Silence them, Excellency," one hisses. "Dissent is a disease. If you allow it to spread, it will devour the state." "No," another pleads. "If we allow criticism, we can guide it, bend it, pretend democracy while still holding the reins." You stare at their sweating faces, their voices colliding. But in truth, you already know the choice is not theirs. It is yours. Do you silence dissent to keep order, or allow voices that may unravel everything? You imagine the square tomorrow, soldiers, rifles raised, protesters scattered like broken glass. The silence afterwards, final, absolute. But you also imagine another tomorrow, one where the square fills with people shouting your name, but also their own. A chorus too large to control, a freedom you cannot cage. And you realize either path ends in blood. The question is, whose? The clock strikes 12. Outside, a protest gathers, small, unarmed, their voices trembling but steady. They demand what you once demanded, a voice, a choice, a chance to live without fear. Your generals turn to you. What shall we do? Your hand grips the armrest of your chair. You remember being in the crowd, in Boston with a musket, in Paris before the guillotine, in Petrograd with red flags, in Berlin by the wall, in Tehran with chants rising to the sky. You remember being them, and yet now you are the one they fear. Do you send soldiers into the streets? Do you silence them as others once silenced you? Or do you open the gates, knowing it may be your own blood spilled next? The decision is yours. And for the first time in this journey, you realize the cruelest truth of revolutions. They do not end tyranny. They only change the tyrant. You stare at your reflection in the polished desk. The face you see is not entirely yours, not entirely theirs. It is the face of power, lined with fear, shadowed with suspicion, heavy with choices that cannot be undone. You were once the student, the worker, the soldier, the mother, the cleric. You carried banners, rifles, prayers. You cried for liberty. You begged for mercy. Now you are the one who decides. Night again. You walk the palace alone, portraits of past rulers staring down from gilded frames. Some are kings, some are emperors, some are presidents who crowned themselves eternal. All ended the same way. Their revolutions began with hope, ended with chains. Their chains began with order, ended with collapse. You touch the leather of the dictator's chair. It creaks beneath your weight, ancient and familiar, and suddenly you see it clearly. Revolutions always end here, in someone's grip, in someone's command, and tonight that someone is you. The chants outside grow louder. The generals wait. The clock ticks. Your pen hovers over a decree. Your lips part, ready to command. But the hour has ended. The palace fades. The soldiers vanish. The pen falls from your hand. You awake again, but this time there is no musket, no banner, no armband, no crown. Only silence. The revolutions blurred together in your memory. Boston's gunpowder, Paris's guillotine, Petrograd's hunger, Berlin's wall, Tehran's chants. You wonder, was there ever a right side? Or are all sides just faces of the same endless circle? And as the silence deepens, one final question lingers. When the revolution ends, do you build freedom, or do you build another prison?
You wake, not in a battlefield, nor a palace, nor a marketplace thick with chants. You wake in silence, timeless, spaceless. Around you, shadows drift, Boston's cobblestones slick with rain, Paris's guillotine dripping in dawn's gray light, Petrograd's breadline stretching into eternity, Berlin's wall standing tall, then shattering to dust, Tehran's chants echoing into the night. The memories are not separate anymore. They are one river of history, flowing together, crashing against the same stones, power, hunger, hope, betrayal. You are not a soldier now, nor a protester, nor a ruler. You are only a witness, a questioner. And the question rises like smoke. Which side survives? Revolutions burn bright, but their flames are not gentle. In the short term, they leave scars. They bring hunger, families torn apart, cities crumbling, neighbors turned against neighbors. In Boston, victory meant independence, but it also meant widows and orphans, a nation built on debt and voices excluded, slaves, women, indigenous tribes who did not taste the freedom promised. In Paris, the guillotine silenced tyrants, but also poets, farmers, and dreamers. The revolution devoured its children before order returned under a new kind of crown. In Petrograd, red flags brought land and bread, yet also famine, purges, and the iron boot of totalitarian rule. The poor were lifted for a moment,
then chained under new masters. In Berlin, liberation came slowly, painfully. The wall fell, but not before decades of spying, betrayal, and families divided. Freedom, when it came, was bittersweet, because lost years can never be restored. In Tehran, the chance of liberation from monarchy gave way to veils of theocracy. One form of oppression was broken only for another to harden in its place. In every case, the short term was the same: violence, chaos, disillusionment. The dream always cost more than its believers expected. And yet, step back far enough, and the fire looks different. Long after the blood dries, revolutions leave seeds. From Boston's revolution grew a republic, flawed, incomplete, but a blueprint for democracy that inspired movements worldwide. From Paris rose the ideas of equality and human rights, written not just in French, but in universal ink. Even the guillotine's shadow could not smother those words. From Russia, though stained by terror, came the global confrontation with inequality. The dream of workers' rights, of questioning unchecked wealth, spread far beyond Moscow's cold streets. In Berlin, the wall's fall became a symbol, not just of an empire collapsing, but of walls themselves being impermanent, fragile against the tide of human will. In Tehran, even under repression, came lessons for the modern world, that revolutions cannot be purely political. They are spiritual, cultural, personal. Ignore the human soul, and no change endures. Each revolution left behind not just rubble, but vocabulary, words like liberty, equality, solidarity, democracy, independence. They entered the bloodstream of history. And though corrupted, twisted, misused, they could not be erased. But then comes the hardest question. Were they worth it? Was the freedom of some worth the blood of so many? Could change have come slower, gentler, through reform, through compromise, without the guillotine, without the famine, without the war? History rarely grants soft paths. Power seldom surrenders without being forced. The American colonists begged politely before they took up muskets. The French starved before they stormed the Bastille. The Russians worked and died before they rose in fury. Perhaps revolution is not a choice, but a last resort, not a destiny, but desperation. And so maybe the better question is not, were they necessary, but why did they become necessary? Why do leaders ignore the cries of the hungry until the cries turn into war drums? Imagine for a moment that none of these uprisings ever came. A world where America remained a colony, its fate tied to the crown. A world where France's peasants still bowed to kings fattened by their hunger. A world where Russia's Tsars reigned into the modern age, wealth and poverty forever divided by bloodline. A world where Berlin remained split, suspicion thicker than concrete. A world where monarchs, unchecked, wrote every future. Would this world be more stable? Perhaps. More peaceful? Perhaps not. Without revolution, change may have come too late, or not at all. Without fire, the chains might not have ever broken. Without upheaval, the words freedom, equality, and dignity might still be whispered only in secret. And yet, Without revolution, millions who died in its storms might have lived. History's cruelest truth is this: progress is written in the ink of blood. And so we arrive here, your world now. You ask yourself, is there still a need for revolution? Around you the signs remain: inequality, corruption, voices silenced, walls invisible but real, technology that liberates and enslaves, climate collapsing, power concentrating in fewer hands. The revolution today may not wear muskets or guillotines. It may not chant in the streets. It may flicker instead in the glow of a screen, in the quiet refusal to obey, in the courage to imagine new systems rather than new rulers. Perhaps the next revolution is not of blood, but of minds. Not tearing down governments, but tearing down illusions. Not building guillotines, but building communities. Yet the danger remains. Every revolution risks becoming its opposite. Every liberator risks becoming a tyrant. Every chant risks being twisted into silence. And so perhaps the true revolution is eternal vigilance, not a single storming of a palace, but the daily act of refusing to give power to fear. You stand at the riverbank of history, watching its waters rush. The faces of the past blur into the faces of the present. The muskets, the guillotines, the banners, the chants, they are only echoes. What remains is the question, whispered across centuries: who survives, the ruler or the ruled, the revolution or the silence that follows? And will you, when your time comes, remain a witness or become a voice? The silence deepens. The river flows on. You close your eyes, and the revolution waits.